Hello, welcome to our Valentine's Day special of Bear in Mind Does Double Bill Film Club. So we are going to be talking about romance films today.
We certainly are. I may, in typical bear in mind double feature film club style,
Bend the rules.
bend the rules. Yeah.
So I
Um,
am a big fan of romantic comedies in the same way I'm a big fan of sitcoms. I think for much
uh,
the same reason.
yeah, I love it. I love a good romantic comedy. I love. I love a good romantic film, to be honest. But I think romantic comedy is obviously the easier to consume. Although I do like ones where a romance film plays with
Yeah.
other genres. As much stick as it gets. I love The Lake House because you know a time traveling letterbox. Can you
Yeah.
get any better? No, like a little dose of sci-fi, just so that you can trick the man into thinking it's not a romance film. Like,
So
yeah,
I
genius.
if you're wondering what to do this Valentine's Day because, it's the year of our COVID 2021, so you probably still can't go out of the house. You can turn down the lights and watch us two talk about romantic comedies, or maybe not romantic comedies, maybe straight up romances.
Well, I mean,
Um,
we're posting this 2 days before Valentine's Day, so you could use this even as some research for a last minute
yeah.
bit of Valentine's evening viewing. So yeah, so or
What's
of course watch this with your loved one.
what's
So
possibly more romantic than watching us two on Valentine's Day?
indeed. So um, so yeah, I think we'll get straight to it then.
Yeah.
Like
Shall I go
obviously,
first?
I have a feeling we're probably going to lean towards romantic comedies, but there might
You
be.
100% have.
I've come with three choices, and I think depending on exactly what you choose, I might. I
That's
mean,
too
it's not
much
be
prep, Matt. Too much prep.
no. I mean, it is too much prep for us. I mean, my three are all along a similar theme. I do have two romantic comedies, and I have one all-out drama. There is like almost no humor in whatsoever.
I think I know
But
which one you picked there.
they're all along similar themes. So two of those three will be chosen, and
If
I'll
you
probably
don't pick, tell me if you're picking the drama, and I'll
yeah.
try and guess it before you pick it.
All right, cool. Yeah. Um. Anyway,
So yeah,
yes, James.
my first choice for this romantic double bill is a classic from 1999, potentially for me at least the best of all romantic comedies. It is Notting Hill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love Notting Hill. I've seen it so many
Hmm.
times. It is about a bookstore owner played by you
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, yeah, in at the height of his bumbling British love interest fame.
Yeah, because this was the second of his films, was it, with
Yeah,
Richard Curtis
yeah,
after Four Weddings?
yes,
Um. So, and it was in like it was probably the one that solidified Richard Curtis as that kind of director. The like
yeah.
romance ever so slight. I mean, even his films that aren't technically romantic films, like the one about the pirate radio station, they have a certain kind of romantic sheen almost to them.
Yeah,
That like the lens, the choice, the color choices, and things. So
he has a distinct style, doesn't he?
he certainly does. I think in a way he's like in the same way that like say Wes Anderson like has a certain color palette and a certain thing like um Richard
Oh,
Curtis you
he didn't
can
direct Notting Hill.
no he produced it I think didn't
He
he
wrote it.
yeah so like
But yeah, even then, the
um
films he writes, he's only directed three films. The rock
mm,
music one,
yeah
the worst romantic film ever made.
are
Love
you saying Love
Actually.
Actually?
I can't stand Love Actually.
I can see why you don't, but I do. I love
And
it, but
he directed About Time, which
mm,
Is a bit of romance mixed with sci-fi.
Mm. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly a. I think he's also producer on the films he hasn't directed as well, isn't he? So, like, I think
Roger
he's
Michelle directed
mm,
Notting Hill.
Notting Hill. Mm. So there's certainly a like an overall feel that comes from the Richard Curtis
Yes.
film work, whether he's just a writer on it, a producer, director, like there's something there. Um,
And starring across from Hugh Grant is Julia Roberts.
yeah, slumming it in a British film.
Yeah, potentially one of the. I like Julia Roberts a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's wonderful.
I'm also a big fan of Pretty Woman and Runaway Bride, and
Yeah,
with Richard Gere in both of those.
true. I mean, this was like the Julia Roberts Renaissance period, really, because like as is sadly the case with Hollywood in particular, when an actress reaches a certain age, she starts to lose work for at least the style of work that she used to do. And in 1999, like this would have been the tail end of where she was potentially acceptable as the romantic lead. But then, of course, the year after that, she was in Erin Brockovich, where she won an
Yes.
Oscar.
Runaway Bride
So,
was 99 as well.
hmm?
Runaway Bride
Right.
was 1999 as well.
But then that would have been a very deliberate case of
Playback to Pretty Woman.
playback to Pretty Woman, like probably produced by the both of them. Because again, I mean, at the time, Richard Gere's career was not like Richard Gere had a little bit of a renaissance at this period as
Yeah.
well, because he'd kind of lost all that momentum that he had in the
You know,
80s and early 90s. So.
looking at it, she had a film out pretty much every year since 1987.
I mean, it's pretty good going.
Not every year, but
Mm. But I think that, like, with this film in particular, although she's still the romantic lead, it is a more adult. It's a more mature,
yes.
not like not adult in the obviously Pretty Woman, the film that she's probably still most famous for. She plays a prostitute. Like that's a fairly adult theme, but like in the sense of it being a relatively mature romance.
And
Like it's quite grounded in a way. It's quite like it is. There's a wonderful kind of fairy tale almost feel to it, but it feels like it could happen. Like so. Sorry, go
yeah,
on.
she plays an actress in this film
Mm,
as well.
yeah.
And it's a love story over time, isn't it?
Mm,
Like they flick in and out of each other's
existence.
lives. Yeah,
Mm. Which I
and
imagine is probably the case for a lot of actors who
yeah,
fall for normal people. Like like
there's some major and obviously it doesn't always end well for them throughout those years that
mm,
they flick in and out. It is the film that has the famous uh, line, "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her."
mm. I mean, it is a film that I think if it isn't your type,
Yeah, you're
it
not
would
going
be
to.
it would be sickening. Like it's so like it would really drive you off. But I think as far as within the genre goes, I think you are correct. It is one of the finest
Yeah,
examples of a really good romantic comedy.
it
Obviously,
has.
a very British romantic comedy,
Yeah,
although probably one that is tailored for an American audience. Like it's
it's
got
probably the film that broke Hugh Grant in America as
probably,
well.
yeah.
It
'Cause
also
it
has a absolutely great comedy turn from I'm gonna probably butcher pronouncing this Welsh name. Is it
uh,
Rhys Ifans?
Rhys Ifans,
Rhys Ifans, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, great comedy turn there
Mm.
as Hugh Grant's character's
Well, I mean, that
best
broke him
friend.
really. Again,
Yeah,
like that was
it
that was
did.
the
Yeah,
film, like because before that he'd done like bits and bobs here and there, and he'd been a member of the Welsh band the Super Furry Animals. Um,
yes.
so like this was the film that really made people go, oh right, yeah. So this guy can act. Um,
He went and starred as the Lizard, Dr. Kirk Connors, in that other famous romantic comedy, The Amazing Spider-Man.
he did, and probably for me, one of his more standout performances was actually being Mycroft Holmes in
Yes,
Elementary. The
he was very
I
good in
would,
that.
yeah, I mean, like
That was a
massive
very good
tangent.
Sherlock adaptation in general.
Oh, I mean, Johnny Lee Miller took, I mean, another fine British actor who came
It's
from.
a controversial opinion, but Elementary is better than Sherlock.
I'd say it's as good as Sherlock, but in a very, very different way. Like,
I think Sherlock itself is downhill from season one onwards. Like it,
mm,
no one.
um,
I think there reaches a point in both Moffat's Doctor Who and Sherlock
mm,
work where people stop telling him not to do stuff, and it has a
mm,
negative impact on his
mm.
output.
Whereas I
But
think the
not
most
what we're discussing.
no, no. I think the most impressive thing about Elementary though is the fact that it is a traditional American 20 something episode a season
Crime
show,
procedural.
and they managed to keep a level of quality to that is like, I
It's the
mean,
cast, isn't it? It was well
the,
cast.
the oh man, yeah. I mean, I get again, like if
And
I it's
enough
almost
turns and twists on the
enough twists and turns. It is almost. I mean, we're talking about Richard Curtis. I could see Richard Curtis being an like being a
yeah.
producer on this. Like Elementary does feel almost like if Richard Curtis did a Sherlock Holmes TV series.
But
Like even
getting
the
us back on track,
mm,
what is your first?
my first. Well, do I do it?
Are you going for the drama?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
I'm
guess
gonna
it then.
go on then.
Baloo.
It is, yeah. Blue
I've never seen
Valentine.
it.
Blue Valentine.
Blue
Yeah.
Valentine. Yeah, I've never
Uh,
actually
I've
seen
only
it.
I've only seen it once. I will only ever see it once, and I will tell you why. So the director is Derek Cianfrance. I've probably just murdered that pronunciation. Starring Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams. Interesting film. I I did see this on a date, I think on Valentine's Day. Um, and in most cases, and including this one, that is not necessarily the wisest choice of films to watch on Valentine's Day. It chronicles the beginning and the end of a relationship, and the director makes some deliberate aesthetic choices with telling that as well. So the start of the relationship is all shot on film. I think it's 16 mil. And the end of the relationship is all shot on a digital camera. And so the beginning of the relationship, naturally through the 16 mil film, has a warmer feel to it.
Yeah,
And a more nostalgic feel to it as well. Obviously, it's got the natural grain to it.
it's a smart
Um,
choice.
yeah, I mean, it's a nice use of playing with the medium, really, because obviously, likewise, the digital sequences all naturally have a cold look to them. I think they were all shot on the early red cameras, and I think and for anyone that's worked with them, they all naturally had a bit of a washed out look. Actually, with the early red cameras, you had to be they were very high quality image wise, but you had to light them probably better than you need
It's
with
grading in post as well, isn't it? They were
yeah,
designed to give you a
yeah,
flat image,
so that you can then use post production techniques to make it to do what you want with it. But if you left it alone, then you could get a very cold look very quickly and very easily, and very flat, as you say, very flat image. And it works beautifully. And obviously, the two lead actors are like magnificent actors.
Is it Gosling?
It's Gosling and Michelle Williams, yeah. So yeah, absolutely magnificent actors.
Michelle Williams went to star on in the other great Marvel romantic comedy, Venom.
Yes, she did. They have fantastic chemistry in this. You could totally believe that, like, they were in a relationship. The director did do some very sneaky things, from what I remember when making this. So things like, I think they had a certain level of improvisation in the scenes, and he would tell Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling different things to do behind the other's back before starting each scene. So, like, he'd make Ryan Gosling force himself on Michelle Williams, and she didn't know that was going to happen, and stuff like that. So, so like, there's some questionable filmmaking like choices, but the overall effect is absolutely brilliant. Now, I chose this because, as I say, I went on a date when to see this film, and the person I went on a date with, we were both. It was after we'd both been in long relationships prior to this, and we were at different stages of getting over that relationship. So, said relationships, and I think I was at that point where I was ready to have another one, whereas she wasn't necessarily ready for the next one. So I actually took more from the parts of the film where it's the beginning of a relationship and the excitement of a new relationship, and the nostalgia and the warmth and all the film, like the little bits of tricks that, as I've just mentioned, whereas obviously she took more from the other bits, and so it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, to have this experience where, like, two people could have exactly polar opposite reactions to a film. And obviously, I mean, nothing came of it. But the film itself, like, it was so powerful, and the experience was so powerful. And I know, I mean, I said at the beginning of this, like, I'm never going to watch that film again, because I think that I personally am never going to match that experience. Like, if I watched it now, I don't know what it would feel like, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as powerful as an experience as it was then. So it might not be the happiest film, but it actually is remarkably romantic at times, and quite grounded. And maybe for people who want something a little bit different on Valentine's Day, actually this might be an interesting film to have a little watch of. So James, your second choice.
Completely changing the tone of that rather serious. Going for a romantic comedy from 2019, starring Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron.
Oh yeah.
Going for Long Shot.
Yeah.
Which I saw in the cinema when it came out. I think it is a underrated little gem of a film.
It bloody is, isn't it? I think we
You've
watched
seen
it
it?
on. Yeah, it's on Netflix now. I think.
Yeah.
Like, um,
Yeah, it's great. Like,
yeah,
and it hit the cinemas, and then no one talked about it. And romantic comedies are a genre of film that do tend to get forgotten quickly,
I think
unless you really are the pinnacle of the
I
at least
think if
modern
it's
ones.
I think if it's the film that hits at the right time and everyone's in the right mood for it and what have you, then
Yeah.
it can be a Notting Hill, it can be a Love Actually, and something like that, where it becomes a cultural phenomenon. But likewise, as you say, it can also just be something that just
Well, I
goes a
don't
bit
think we
under
live
the
in an era
radar.
where that's gonna like because when you think about all the
Um,
ones we do
and I think
consider
this is one of them. I
pinnacle,
think because it doesn't also it,
I've lost you. So about this, guys, we seem to have lost Matt, so we will take a little break in the episode and come back in a moment to discuss Longshot. See you shortly. Okay, welcome back. We're sorry for those technical difficulties. We were just about to discuss Longshot from 2019. I'm not entirely sure I said the name before the break, but that's a film we're talking about.
You didn't. Oh no, you did. Yeah, we had the beginning of a discussion, and I continued
Yes.
discussing it before I realised that you weren't just sitting there very still.
Yeah.
So
It's a it's a little gem of a film. We were talking about how uh, certain romantic comedies are popular, and I was going to mention how all the behemoths of the genre are from the 90s or the 80s.
yeah, and I think I mean, you get your little you get your odd one here or there, like you get your Bridesmaids that like
Yeah.
suddenly comes out of nowhere. Although obviously that did have a somewhat like 80s nod in
I'm
its
also not sure it's a
sensibility.
romantic comedy.
I'd say it is. Like,
I would put Bridesmaids as a comedy along the lines of The Hangover more than a
I mean,
romantic.
that was what it was marketed as, certainly.
There's a romance in there, but it's not what the
Mm,
film's about.
yeah, I'd say, yeah, maybe.
Um, but yeah, long shot. It helps that Rogan and Theron just have outstanding chemistry in this film.
Mm,
That's what carries the film. But what it's about is Charlize Theron plays the US Secretary of State who decides to make a run for being president.
mm,
The president at the time, played by Bob Odenkirk, who's just, great in anything he's in.
mm.
And then Seth Rogen plays a journalist who then gets hired to be, she decides to hire him to be her speechwriter.
Yes.
They knew each other in childhood,
Hmm.
and then it's how a romance develops between them two over the film. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's touching, it's nice.
Yeah,
It's,
it's lovely. I think one of the things I said before I realised that my internet had given up was that I think obviously, as you said, the behemoths of the genre are from the 80s and 90s, and I think that like the rom-coms sometimes just hit like when the whole it seems to be like when society as a whole is ready for it. Like and
yeah,
then the right rom com comes and it becomes this great thing. And this film probably was wrong film, wrong time,
yeah.
but
This film is also,
it's of the quality that actually, if it were right film, right time, it probably would have been in that
yeah,
same
it's also
discussion.
quietly radical in a way that shouldn't be radical in any way, shape, or form.
Mm,
In that the moral of this story isn't that she learns to not reach higher to get the man she's
mm,
after. That
mm,
isn't the story it goes for. She
mm,
wants to be president. She should be
mm.
president. It's not. It's a film about him learning to support her in her aspirations
Yeah,
and being the person who's always there for her while she goes and conquers the world.
Yeah,
Like,
but I think that's also quite positive from a male perspective as well,
yes,
though. Like,
certainly.
I mean, I think that obviously the thing, like, you go back and you look at some earlier rom-coms, like, things from the 80s. There's one that starred the now Marvel pairing of Robert Downey Jr. and Marissa Tomei in the 80s, where Marissa Tomei, just because she's seen a picture of Robert Downey Jr., never met him, because obviously this is like pre what do you
Yeah.
call it? This is like pre-internet and everything. She's seen a picture of Robert Downey Jr. and she just buggers off on her wedding day, leaves her like soon-to-be husband to go and pursue a man that she's never met just because he looks like Robert Downey Jr. Like, and so
Okay.
yeah, I mean, there's a real level of, like, obviously she's an arsehole, although she's somehow all the way through the film she is still seen as the positive character.
I've been having some thoughts about this actually lately, just to take us off on a slight side tangent.
Yeah.
How I've been watching it's more like we've been discussing sitcoms a fair bit lately,
Mm.
and how most leads in sitcoms are raging narcissists who are terrible people. Like
Well,
Always Sunny doubles down on a show like Always Sunny doubles down on that.
mm.
Sitcoms in general, because they're the leads.
Well, I watched purely by fluke. I watched there's a 4 or 5 minute extract from it's not a lecture, but it's like an interview at a university. It seems like that Stephen
Yeah,
Fry did about 10 years ago, where he describes the difference between US and American comedy. And in US sitcoms, in particular, it's the arrogant, very American, like, blah blah, kind of, look at me, look at how good I am, blah, and look at how rubbish everyone else is, kind of thing.
yeah,
Whereas in and it's all about, like, succeeding, even, like, but being an arsehole through succeeding. Whereas, like, British comedy is about arrogant arseholes who fail.
yeah.
And we love the fact that we fail. But yeah, so, like, with
Well, it's something romantic comedies do as well. If
mm,
the film was established with a couple in play,
yeah,
and the romance is going to be between one of the persons out of this couple and someone else,
mm,
even if the other half is a relatively normal person,
mm,
you've got to amp up, like, you have to almost villainize them so you don't
yeah,
feel bad for them when they eventually.
yeah. Whereas, like, in this, like,
And
I
this is talking
mean,
about if they're in every other respect, they're an average person. I'm not talking about if they're
mm,
actually a genuinely terrible person that someone's
oh,
trying
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to leave,
But I
or
mean, I
if
think
they're just a
that's
normal person.
But I mean, I think that's the thing that, like, always stood out to me about this Marissa Tomei. I can't even remember the name of it. But about this Marissa
Yeah,
Tomei, Robert Downey Jr. film, is it, like, it's completely deplorable, but it's also, like, the peak version of, like, the things that people kind of get away with in romantic comedies and romance
yeah,
films, and as a whole, and that men have to be perfect, like, that there is this push that, like, men have to be like this, like, handsome, strong, athletic, incredibly smart, like, etc. And, like, Seth Rogen obviously has made a career of being the antithesis of that. And yet you've got Charlize Theron, who, like, is, one of the most stunning actresses that there's ever been. She's
yeah,
beautiful, she's smart, she's funny, and that's just the actress. And then, of course, all those expectations then go into the fact that she's playing a character that's, like, running for president, and she's still interested in Seth Rogen. That, like,
but like
this
he's a
is
charming guy,
very
right?
he
That's
is
the
a
thing,
he is
isn't
a
it?
charming guy, but he's still normal. And I
Yeah,
think that, like, that is a great message for men, that, like, because obviously, like, in recent years, obviously there's been a lot of talk about men's mental health issues, I mean, I had to do some online training for work yesterday. Like, it's still very like it's incredible actually to think like the statistics of how little men will actually discuss mental health
Yeah,
issues, and obviously a feeling of self-worth or like how you see yourself and things like that. Um, like expectations, body issues. It's something that's been talked about for years for women. Like the absolutely unrealistic expectations of like what you're supposed to achieve apparently because of like fashion magazines and stuff like that. But it's really only something that's becoming discourse about men
yeah,
in recent times. A film like this, where Seth Rogen, like, he doesn't, in the end, he becomes happy being the husband. Like, there is nothing
yeah.
wrong. Like, I mean, it's like
It ends with him
in
taking her name,
yeah,
obviously becoming the first Mister.
mm, yeah. I mean, it's like in my marriage, like, because of my professional background and her professional background, when we're both earning, I will never earn as much as my wife.
Yeah,
Ever. Like, I know this is a fact. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. Like, the fact that I will never be the breadwinner in the family, like, it's that's fine. And this is very much like, obviously it's on a grander scale in this story. So it
yeah,
has to be like to make the to make it more interesting as a film. But like, it's very much that thing of like, be happy. Like, it's there's a wonderful moral to this tale, like in multiple layers, I would say as well. So
yeah. And
it's a Charlize Theron film as well. I think that's another reason that it
yeah,
got a little bit forgotten, because it isn't a Seth Rogen film. And so for the
yes.
Seth Rogen fans, this isn't a Seth Rogen film. You're not going to get the usual like expectation from him.
I mean, you've got
This
a scene where
is
they both get high, and then she
Yeah, I
has
know,
to
but I mean,
negotiate a.
but I remember her doing the rounds for this. She found the script. She
Yes.
produced the film. She like this is very much her film, and
Yeah.
she chose Seth Rogen because Seth Rogen was the right actor for it.
It's
So
also
like,
very easy at times to forget her range.
yeah,
Like
mm,
you get you so used to it in typical. It's almost humanizing this film
mm.
in like
Which again, I mean, is another
seeing the
positive
different
note.
because you get moments of typical Charlize Theron, right?
Mm,
Of and then when she's with him, you get moments of a more human
yeah,
side to this super capable.
mm,
It, yeah, I like the film a lot. I remember coming out of the cinema thinking, yeah, that was a really nice way to spend a couple of hours.
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it was. I think we really enjoyed it. I'm sure it's on UK Netflix now.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed it. Excellent choice, James. Excellent choice. I think what should I go for? Right, I'm going to mention my other choice, and then I'm going to
Okay.
go in with like the actual choice. So obviously, I said I had three, so I was going on a theme of actually breaking up.
Okay.
So Blue Valentine was the first one. Um, I will mention The Breakup because that was the other actual breakup film,
Yeah.
which again, quite nice in the fact that it's quite grounded. Um, it's a 2006 film, I think. Yeah, 2006 film directed by Peyton Reed, starring Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn, with Jon Favreau doing what Jon Favreau does on the sidelines, being the
Yeah.
ultimate sideman. Um, and it's wonderful because it doesn't have a happily ever after, or it does have a happily ever after because they're both happy, but they're not back together. Like,
Yeah.
it's realistic. So as much as it's funny and it is romantic and it is like a tale of love, it's the tale of love naturally reaching its end point. And
If
the
we're gonna throw out some honorable mentions, I've got one
mm,
as well.
go on then.
The last 5 years.
Oh, never heard of it.
It is a musical
Hmm.
about a breakup,
Hmm.
but it does this really interesting thing. So
Hmm.
each the lead, it stars Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan,
Hmm.
and they play a couple. Their songs go against each other as as the film plays on. I think it's a stage musical first as well, to be fair. I think it was an
Okay.
adaptation. But her songs go
Hmm.
from breakup through to meeting.
Hmm.
His songs go from meeting through to breakup
Hmm.
with a point in the middle where their songs kind of meet.
Oh, all right. That sounds
It's a
interesting.
clever little
Yeah. Oh, I'll have
mechanic.
to
So
give that a
yeah,
watch.
you
Hmm.
see her perspective going backwards and his going through the
Hmm.
relationship at a
Hmm.
traditional way with, as I say, a point in the middle that's a duet
The two
between
of them.
them
Hmm.
that is at the same point.
Hmm. Well, my actual second choice, my proper second choice, is the 2008 film Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Ah, been a
Um,
long time since I've seen that.
yeah, it's
I guess you know what I was saying. How the heights of romantic comedies were the 90s and the 80s.
mm,
I suppose I was wrong because that does miss that noughties period of the Judd Apatow era,
yeah,
which I
because I
would
suppose
place
you.
this film into.
Mm, yeah, I mean it's written by Jason Segel, starring Jason Segel and Kristen Bell,
Yeah,
with Paul Rudd. Um,
love
like
Paul Rudd.
this is
Love
the
that whole
renaissance.
cast, to be fair.
Well, I mean, this was the beginning of the renaissance of Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
Really, like, um, obviously, people remember him from like being in the final seasons of Friends, but he, like, this is that daft little character where he just got in with the right crowd, and then just everything just spiraled. And
was this hit before or after his various Judd Apatow appearances? Then,
I think this is right at the beginning of it
because
because
obviously he's in
his
things like Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I think maybe all at a similar time then.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, this tells the tale, as it says in the name, of forgetting Sarah Marshall. So, of Jason Segel's character has broken up with his long-term girlfriend, Sarah Marshall, and he's left with two tickets to go on holiday to where I think the story was he'd planned to. Get married. Well, pop the
yes,
question while away. And his girlfriend is a TV star, so she's like a minor celebrity, but she's left him to and started seeing what's his name? The character is see full cast and crew. Russell Brand's Aldous Snow.
ah, yes, because there was a
Yeah,
sequel, wasn't there?
yeah. There's a, well, it's a. I think it's a prequel. No, it is a sequel. It is a
Yeah,
sequel.
which focuses on Russell
Um,
Brand's character.
yeah. Get him to the Greek. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which was just as funny, although really daft and stupid.
yeah,
Um, but it also stars Mila Kunis, who plays the receptionist at the hotel that
yeah,
Siegel stays at, and of course, as you'd expect, the to create some tension, Sarah Marshall and Elder Snow are at that same resort, and in fact, in the neighbouring room to Jason Segel. So he gets to hear them in their lovemaking, and
yeah.
so he experiences the full misery of a breakup, not once but twice, because he does actually temporarily ruin the relationship with Mila Kunis. But there is a hint that they get back together and what have you at the end. So again, like as daft and silly as it is, and there's like an element of reality to it as well. It is funny, it is heartwarming. There is certainly romance in it.
This would have come out while he was in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, it was at that point where he was getting fed up with How I Met Your Mother.
Which I think
Um,
is one of the most rom-commy of all sitcoms.
yeah, because there's a season in particular where Marshall's almost not in it.
Yeah.
Like, and they have to like kind of find ways of making sure that he's not in it and what have you. So he's in scenes by himself or in scenes with other characters and what have you. And it's because there was a period where like he was desperate for it to get cancelled or for him to get written out or what have
Yeah.
you. But obviously it was in an ironclad contract, and he was getting to make this film. He was getting offers to make other films and what have you.
The
Um,
Muppets.
I think the Muppets came after it. I think the Muppets may have been
The first Muppets definitely came out during.
I think it was season 10. I think that's why again Marshall isn't in season 10 that much, because he's
Yeah.
or at least as part of the gang, because the whole of season 10 takes part in one weekend. So Marshall's stuck in a car trying to get to the wedding.
Yeah.
In season 10. So I think that's when Muppets was getting done. But when Sarah Marshall was getting done, they had a similar thing. I think it may have been when he started working at the law firm.
He was traveling from.
Yeah, so he was in
Yeah.
different scenes. So like obviously they could film all of his stuff in bulk in theory. And then
Like he was in a different city, ringing home, kind of.
that sort of job. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, a great film, or a very good romantic comedy. Again, working on the breakup theme, I think. Yeah, nice,
Yeah.
realistic one. I think I went with the breakup initially as well, as I said, because it pairs quite well with this. As far as a light-hearted one goes, but I thought I'd throw Blue Valentine in just
Yeah.
to add something, add a bit of variety, so it wasn't just full rom-coms.
Yeah. So we have some options there for you to watch over Valentine's Day weekend, either
Mm.
with your significant other,
Or
with a
not?
potential significant other, or on your own.
Well, I mean, obviously this is COVID period, so it really shouldn't be with a potential significant other unless you're going to be simul watching from separate areas.
Hey, that's the thing nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
Watch
Start
parties.
watch parties. Yeah. So yeah. So even if you've both swiped right or whatever it is, like don't meet up to watch this film. Right, not
Yeah,
right
you
now.
can
Stay
across quite
safe.
old there, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, I've never used it. like, so, um, you know, I've never used that means of telling people they're not good enough. So, like,
Uh,
yeah. So, yeah. So, few choices there.
yes. Do
What
we
were so
have
we'll
a
what
romantic snack?
ooh, a romantic snack. I did have a think about one, but it seems to have. I had one ready and I've completely forgotten it.
Okay, well, in the theme of I know we usually give you a really detailed British snack.
Mm.
We haven't got one for you today because the British are notoriously unromantic. So just get some popcorn, paint it pink, have some fun with that.
Yeah. Ideally, like use jam or something like that. Don't
Yeah,
use a
use
lead-based
something
paint.
edible. Don't
Yeah, yeah. Don't use
don't
your
get a can of like spray paint and
yeah, yeah. Don't get your like Warhammer paint or whatever it is, and like make it pink. So, because
Got
that'd be
everything
bad.
boxes of model paint behind me right now.
Yeah, a bit of lead-based paint. I mean, to be
Hey,
honest,
there's no lead in it anymore.
if you ended up watching Blue Valentine and you're watching it alone and you've recently had a breakup, then maybe you did want the lead-based paint because but yeah. So, but on that shocking note, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Stay safe,
Yep.
and we'll see you all soon. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Goodbye.
Bye.